Welcome to the Intuitive Websites Internet Marketing Podcast, bringing you the country's top podcast on the subject of internet marketing. I'm your host, Glenn Thayer, and today we'll discuss key indicators of website success. I'm here with the CEO of Intuitive Websites, Thomas Young. Hi, Tom.
Hey, Glenn.
Well, we know web marketing can be complex, and there's lots of information that we got to utilize to make it work. But what do you mean by key indicators?
Well, key indicators are the things that drive your business in a nutshell. If you were to look at 4 or 5 things about your business that really drive it, key indicators. And you can think about key indicators from 2 perspectives. One is from a marketing perspective. What are the key marketing initiatives that drive customers to you, drive prospects to you? Then what are the 5 or 6 things that your company does with customers that keeps them there, makes them happy, that enhances their quality of life or makes it easier for them to do business? Those are key indicators or critical success factors. It's a strategic way of looking at marketing. And what we're going to talk about today is the fact that those things need to be on your website. And unfortunately, many times they're not, because many websites are brochureware and they're fluffy and the content is not really a key indicator. It's something really that says, hey, we're a great company. You should do work with us.
Well, what are some examples that you can give us?
Well, we're working on a project right now with a large ski resort company out of Canada. And what we're finding is that skiers, when they make the decision to go to the resort, are looking at all of these little details like the temperature, the snow conditions, the hassles of getting into their condo where they're staying. How easy is it to get from their room to the lift, and what's the restaurants like? All these little details that make that ski trip work. Those are key indicators, and that's what they look for on websites, and that's what should be easy to find. All businesses have those commonalities.
Would it be fair to say that key indicators could be the reasons customers do business with you?
Yeah, the reason they do business with you and the reason your marketing works.
So that would be what key indicators are.
Absolutely.
Okay. Well, now, do they only apply to website design, or are they part of a web marketing plan as well?
They're both, absolutely, because when you think about what people look at on a website, the key indicators should be very prevalent on the site. And when you think about doing web marketing, whether it's email or search engines, all of that's going to be targeted at those key indicators, at your market niches. And the thing that really sets great companies apart from others is that they really have a handle in understanding what triggers people toward action. And I think actually any company that's been in business for any amount of time is doing these things. It's just not always being communicated.
Well, where do we start in identifying our key indicators?
Well, I think the best thing to do is to look at your current business model and look at how your marketing works. Now, these podcasts are mostly focused on web marketing professionals or marketing professionals in general. And many times they're not thinking at that strategic level. So what we're going to ask you to do is to start thinking that way. Who is the target market? How did they hear about your company? And why do they move toward contacting you? Things such as word of mouth. And if you look at word of mouth, what are people saying? What is it that's driving people? What is the knowledge base that your company is communicating, and how does that drive people? It also could be pricing, or it could be the quality of your products or the quality of your service or your responsiveness. All of these things then would need to be translated on the website. And you take what works offline and what has worked traditionally for you and communicate it on the web.
So just make sure that your traditional marketing avenues, such as brochures or print or anything like that, is communicated on the web as well, not that your web presence is just a flashy media presence.
Right, absolutely. In fact, let's look at a couple examples. We'll look at generating leads and selling directly through an e-commerce website. And let's start with generating leads. And I think most companies, at a minimum, would want leads to come from their website, would want inquiries to come in. And there's some real important key indicators to look for if that's what your website's doing. One of the things you want to do is look at what content is being reviewed on the site. And when they look at that content and they read it, what are the things within the content that's going to move people to action? Getting back to the example of a ski resort, if you're planning a ski trip and your wife or your girlfriend gets cold, the content that's going to be a driver for this thing happening or not is going to be what's the temperature like on the different runs, the different lifts, or the different parts of the mountain. That's the kind of content I'm talking about. And that's the content that will drive people toward a conversion or have them off your site looking somewhere else.
Okay.
How easy is it then for the web user to find the content and scan it? How does it push their hot buttons, and how easy is it for them to contact you once they find what they're looking for? Here's a real important one, and this is something that is very important on the web, and that is, how do visuals communicate that hot button or that key indicator? A visual would be, hey, this side of the mountain gets all the sun, and it's actually quite warm on this side of the mountain compared to other ski areas.
So there'd be actual pictures of that side of the mountain. Here's what it looks like. Here's what you can expect when you show up. That's
right. For example, if you're offering ski lessons, and you might put a photo of a group lesson next to your link to book the lesson, right? Make sure that photo matches the type of lesson offered. If it's a lesson for skiers, don't show snowboarders, or vice versa.
Right.
And it's very common to go to the web and see photos and visuals that don't relate to the key indicator that's being discussed or attempted to talk about. When that happens, people lose interest. They lose trust in the website, and they're more likely to move on because it's not connecting with what they're trying to get done. What makes you different from your competitors? Another key indicator that drives people to contact you. And then also don't forget the key concerns that people have. If there's some things that people either have misinformation about, or it's a key issue that has to be discussed, that also should be addressed in your content.
Well, what about e-commerce websites? How are they different from other websites that we've been discussing?
Well, e-commerce websites have, of course, all of the things we've just talked about. But e-commerce websites are a little bit different because the trust factor is so heavy. If you're going to buy online and give someone your credit card, you've got to trust the site. Now the good news is that if you have a well-established brand, your trust is usually really high. But even if you don't have an established brand, if you're not a Nike or an REI of the world, you can still build good trust and brand through an easy-to-use site. Because as people go through a website and they're bouncing around trying to buy products, if the site's easy for them to use and easy for them to buy on, then that's a huge factor in trust, and it will definitely help sales. The other thing to think about is price versus the uniqueness of the offering. Keep in mind that if you're selling something everyone else is selling, you might compete a little bit on service and delivery, but price is the bottom line. But if you have a unique product that's hard to find, and you have an easy-to-use website, then price won't be a factor, and people will buy from you.
So like taking Amazon.com, let's say, or going to purchase a music CD. Most of the CDs that are out in pop music today can be purchased online. But if, let's say, you want prison songs from the 30s, it's a little different. It's going to be a little more difficult to find.
If you want some, Celtic music from the 1950s or some real eclectic music or music collections, you might end up on a small little website without a major brand, and pricing probably won't be as big a consideration because you want that kind of music, and that's true in any niche marketing.
So you easily expect to pay $5 to $10 more than you normally would.
Absolutely. And keep in mind that when you're trying to determine what key indicators are, whether it's e-commerce or lead generation, you need to think about what is the experience like for people that purchase from you. If you were to ask customers, what was the experience like buying from us and using us as a company that you purchase goods and services from, they'll tell you what that experience was like. And if it's a positive experience, then that's a key indicator that needs to be communicated on the web.
Now, that's something with e-commerce you can do through like SurveyMonkey or one of the online websites that offer surveys that you can survey your consumers.
Absolutely. You should be surveying your consumers to not only find out what key indicators are out there, but also to validate that, yes, in fact, what we think is a key indicator is a key indicator. For example, the ski resort we were working with, it's located in Canada, and they market to people in Seattle. And so is it an issue that they have to cross the border? Is that a key indicator? Is that a deterrent for people that they have to cross the U.S. border and deal with all those issues? That's the kind of research you should be doing.
Tom, what are a few other examples of key indicators?
Well, let me use an example of two companies that everybody knows about, Walmart and Starbucks.
All right.
And Walmart's key indicator is one thing. What is it?
That's price.
It's price, absolutely. And if we're not the lowest price, then our key indicators are out of whack. So they do everything they can to make the price the lowest. What's interesting, though, about Walmart is that they will price differently in different regions. Some regions they can do business cheaper in, and so they price lower, or pricing should be lower in that region, it's expected. And other areas, they price a little bit higher. So if you see a Walmart in a little bit more exclusive part of town, they're going to price a little higher, and they're going to price lower in other parts of town. The bottom line here is that that's their key indicators, price. They put everything in that, and that's what consumers expect. They're not going to get a lot of good service at Walmart, but you are going to get a low price. Take Starbucks, for example. Starbucks is selling coffee, and they're growing at a phenomenal rate. The coffee that they sell isn't even, fine, gourmet coffee. It's pretty much just standard coffee. But what they've created is the Starbucks experience.
Right.
So when you go in to get your coffee, you know what it's going to be like. It's going to be fun, and it's going to be courteous and quick. Other people will be there. You have a consistent approach whatever Starbucks you're in.
Your coffee will taste the same whether it's in Seattle or Florida.
That's right, or Budapest. It doesn't matter.
Exactly.
And the service, their friendly service, their hiring procedures are all structured around the Starbucks experience, and you're buying that probably more than you're actually buying the coffee. These two companies, Walmart and Starbucks, have done real well because they are so tied in to their key indicator. And there are other key indicators, but those are the two that kind of jump out. All businesses have these things. And so your challenge as a web marketing professional or marketing professional is to determine what are my key indicators and really ride those and put them on the website.
Now, going into that, what are some additional ways that a web marketer can get key indicators? Where else can they get them? What resources do they have within their own company to get those?
Well, there's several things, and we'll talk about a few here. One is to look at the right stats. And especially if you're in an e-commerce business, there are some stats that you should be looking at that will really tell you if you're communicating your key indicators. One is shopping cart abandonment. And this is people that go into a website, fill up their shopping cart with items, and then never purchase. They dump out of it. I mean, could you imagine if that was happening in a grocery store, with people filling in their shopping carts and not buying?
I didn't know tax was this much. Sorry.
Yeah, I didn't. What, you're charging me more money than I thought? I'm leaving my cart right here and I'm out of here. Well, that's what happens online. And, it's not uncommon for rates to be as high as 70, 80% for shopping cart abandonment. We like to shoot for abandonment rates of 40 to 50% because, some people are going to be putting things into carts to get pricing and just get some general information and really not going to buy or maybe come
shipping
back later. Right. But shipping really is the key thing to think about. And it's usually the biggest surprise on a shopping cart. And the number one reason why people abandon is they come in, they see the shipping. They said, I didn't expect that. I'm out of here. So shopping cart abandonment is a key stat to look at. Looking at also at the search terms and their conversion rates. The search terms can really tell you these are key indicators because these are people that came into the website, found it, and bought. So these definitely are key terms that are driving the key indicators for our website. Other things to look at is the amount of time spent on the website, the path on the website, the exit and entry pages, getting a sense of what people are doing and what's triggering them or getting them excited about staying on the site, and then what's moving them to action. There's a little bit more detail on web stats. We did a podcast on web stats, but this is going into a little bit more detail as far as looking for key indicators in web stats.
What are some other ways that web marketers can get that information of indicators of success or those key indicators? What are some additional ways they can get into that?
Well, stats are important, but there are other things you can do. I found that working directly with the owner or CEO or high-level marketing person is a great way to get a sense of what the company's about and the vision of the company. One of the things that I do is speak to CEO groups, and whenever I talk to a CEO and I ask him, what is different about your company, or even a simple question like, what does your company do? In one or two sentences, they can tell me in a nutshell why they're in business, why they're successful, and the kind of value they bring to customers. It can be a tremendous resource for web marketing people because that needs to be on your website, and so often it isn't. It's just flowery brochure content that's on a website. Another way to determine key indicators is through market research. Talk to your customers. Do 20, 30 telephone surveys and ask them basic questions. Why do you do business with us? What is it about doing business with us that keeps you coming back? How are we different from our competitors and that sort of thing? And also do usability testing. We're going to devote an entire podcast to that coming up because it's so important. But usability testing is a great way to determine key indicators as people think out loud, navigate your website, and tell you, this is what I'm looking for. Where is it? That's a key indicator.
Now, there's also some other things. We talked about e-commerce sites as well. Wouldn't it be a good idea to have web surveys sent to follow up with somebody who has purchased on your site?
Yeah, I think it's a great idea to have an exit survey. So anyone who purchases on your website, just have a little pop-up that comes and say, would you mind taking a brief survey? And I think you'll find that 20, 30% of people will complete a survey like that, and you'll get some great data.
Okay. Well, we end each of these podcasts with an action item plan. So, Tom, what are key action items for the listener?
Okay, we've got some great homework for you today. What I'd like you to do if you're listening to this podcast is take some time and identify 5 or 6 key indicators in 2 different areas. The first area is how your company markets itself. What are the key things that your company does in marketing itself that leads to new customers and new prospects? The second area is on your website itself. What are the 5 or 6 parts of content or areas of the site that really trigger hot buttons in people, that get them excited about working with you? And if you don't know what those things are, then you've got to go back and look at, well, what are the 5 or 6 things that your company does really well that draws customers to you and really drives your business? Set goals for each of these indicators. Track them monthly and drive your web stats around them as well. And do market research to validate those indicators and to find new ones.
Well, wonderful. Well, this has been an Intuitive Websites Internet Marketing Podcast. And for more information and to see all the available podcasts and much more, visit intuitivewebsites.com.